Hello everybody, and a very warm welcome back to the Life's Good. Saturday 20th of June 2020. It's a pleasant morning. I think it's about 9:30, and I've been out here for a little while just checking on things and listening to Daisy tell me a few tales. You'll have to excuse her, she just likes to get in on the act all the time. Lots to do today. However, this is actually the first day of Cheryl and I's 2 weeks annual holiday. Unfortunately, due to the current circumstances that have been prevailing, everything's been cancelled. We should have been gathering with family in the south of England with our caravan and celebrating a couple of large birthdays. My daughter's 40th and my mum's 80th. Unfortunately, everything's been cancelled. We can't congregate and celebrate those together, and indeed my daughter, who lives in America, is unable to get flights over and visit for the occasion. In addition to that, the NHS won't let us cancel our leave, simply because if everybody was to hang on to their leave and take it at the end of the year when things are all open and you're able to go away and enjoy things, everybody would be wanting to take their leave at the same time, and the service would have no staff left. So we've been advised to continue with our vacation, take our holidays, even though unfortunately we can't do very much. Having said that, there's lots to do in the garden, and I'm quite happy spending time here. We are planning a few days out, picnics, places where we can go together as a couple, take a picnic, have a walk, do some sightseeing, and have a picnic and just enjoy a bit of time out. And we're going to be doing some DIY and decorating as well. As far as the garden is concerned, I've got lots to do. Gherkins, I need to sort the gherkins, guys. They're here actually. These are my gherkins that I've grown on in the greenhouse. I will keep these in the greenhouse, and I'm going to need to provide a location to grow these. And I did say in my last video that an area in the back of the greenhouse is where I've chosen to put these in. I've got a long trough type planter. I'm going to plant these in there and provide a sort of mesh climbing frame for these, and if they don't climb themselves, I will tie them onto that mesh. But I'll show you in a moment what I've done, what I'm doing to accommodate my gherkins. I've got some pumpkins to put out in the garden. I'm trying to find locations for those. I had 3. I've put one in near the rhubarb, and I'm hopefully going to let that grow on adjacent to the raspberries, between the rhubarb and the raspberries, and behind the garlic, in fact, over my shoulder here. I've also got lots of other little tasks to sort out. Lawns need cutting. The shed roof needs to be sorted, although I have to be quiet today because Cheryl's just finished night shift. She's in bed, so any banging and crashing on there will probably disturb her, so I'll leave that for another time. Lawns to cut, as I said. Lots of other little jobs, odds and ends around the garden. And you'll probably notice I'm sporting a new t-shirt. I purchased this from my local health trust, the one I work for actually, Northumbria Healthcare, and it's raising funds for the Bright charity, raising funds in support of the Northumbria Healthcare Trust, keeping our NHS running. Now, I purchased it a few weeks ago. Unfortunately, they didn't have my size, and I had to wait until this was delivered yesterday. So I'm sporting it today in support of the NHS, with whom I work, as does Cheryl. And a way of reminding you guys that although things are being lifted, we're getting back to normal-ish, you still need to be very cautious, very aware of how you're congregating and socialising, and please do adhere to the government guidelines and adhere to the distancing advice and stay safe. Right, well, I'm going to crack on. Stick around come and see what I'm up to, particularly the gherkins. That's going to be my next job, and anything else I get up to today. This is my little greenhouse. I'm sure my regular viewers recognise it straight away. It's not the biggest. It's 6 foot wide and 4 feet from front to back. However, as small as it is, it suffices to provide me with everything I need for my garden. I use it early in the season, spring in particular, for sowing and growing my seeds in various trays and containers. I've got a large shelf area both sides, and I also have a shelf area that I put in the back that's removable. And I've removed that today. I've had a little tidy up on the floor. Now, I do try and keep my greenhouse particularly tidy. I think it's important to keep this little workspace neat and tidy. For hygiene purposes, you don't want to leave all sorts of seeds and bits and pieces all over the floor and the shelves and everything else. That attracts all sorts of pests in, snails, slugs and so on. You don't want that. But I do like a nice tidy workspace. It's nice to come in here and just crack on and do things without having to tidy up, throw things away, organise and so on. So that's one thing I'm pretty sort of fastidious about, is the tidiness of my greenhouse. Having said that, I've removed the shelf, I've cleaned the floor, I've decluttered this back area, make sure there's nothing there to interfere with the growing of the plants, and I've selected this trough, this green trough container. It's about, I suppose, about 6 inches in depth. It's almost as wide as the area at the back end of this greenhouse, and I thought this would be ideal in which to plant and grow my few gherkin plants. And there's what in there? There's probably about 8 or 9 gherkin plants in there. I think I'll get away with growing most of these together. I think I'll put all of them in that container and grow them all up the back wall of the greenhouse. In order to do that, I'm going to need some sort of a mesh or climbing frame arrangement in order for those to grow against and for me to tie them against. And I'll show you now what I've selected in order to provide that growing environment. We had a small rabbit hutch and run that was no longer being used. It was dilapidated, falling apart, so I completely dismantled it. I saved some of the hardware from there, some catches and hinges and so on. But more importantly, I saved the wire sort of mesh caging that was the run construction. It was in various sizes, but all of them were the same length or width in this case. This is a small piece left over. It's quite a rigid wire mesh, or the Americans call this cloth, I think, but we in England call it mesh. It's wire mesh. This piece is left over, as I said. What I did was I took several pieces of that mesh and some of the timbers from the old shed that I knocked down and produced this. I've got 2 timber uprights and several pieces of the wire mesh, and all I've done is use my heavy duty stapler and stapled these to the timber uprights in such a way that they don't slide about, they don't slide up and down, they're sort of fixed in place. But at least with the staples I should easily be able to dismantle this should I wish to. But I thought that this now would stand over that green trough in such a way that the gherkins will be able to climb this, or I will be able to tie the gherkins onto this as they grow. And that would make harvesting easier. It will certainly make the whole area tidier and protect the plants whilst they grow. So I'm now going to set about putting this in place. Oh, there you go. The gherkins are planted in the trough. The frame is secured above. I was able to tie that frame against the little brackets for the shelf that are already in place in there. I've tied them on with just a bit of garden string, easily removed and put away should I need to do so at the end of the season. But this, I think, is going to provide a nice little growing area and growing frame for my gherkins. Now, I have planted all 9 in that trough. I've not grown gherkins before. If they're anything like cucumbers and other vine type plants, they're probably going to get quite big with large foliage, and they may be too close together there. I really don't know at this point in time. I didn't want to waste any. If at some point I decide they are too close together and they are too large for each other, I can always remove a couple and put them into individual pots and provide a cane or something for them to grow up at a later date. But in the meantime, I've put all 9 in. I didn't want to dispose of any, and we'll see what happens from there. I think it's time for lunch. Time for a cup of tea and a sandwich. I'm pleased with the way the gherkin arrangement has come together. I've planted all of them, as you saw. I'll wait and see if they're okay like that. If I need to thin them, I will. I wanted to show you the spuggy box I made. The little sparrow house is in place on the back end of that shed there. They have been sitting on there and looking at it. Nothing's taken up residence yet, but it's early days. It's only been up a few days, so I wouldn't expect anything there just yet. But I'm hoping that over the course of time they take note of it, and with a bit of luck we'll have some sparrows move in. In addition to that, Widget, the pigeon that was born in our plum tree, he has a new mate and is currently nesting in the pear tree just over my shoulder here. And if I get the chance, I'll take the camera or the phone or something and see if I can get a picture of them making their nest. They're not the best of nest builders, guys. Most of it's falling back out of the tree, so we'll see what happens there. And the blue tits. Remember the blue tits in the box next to the decking? They fledged best part of a week ago, I suppose, just over. They were back. The 2 adult blue tits and 3 baby blue tits were feeding in the plum tree just outside our kitchen window the other morning, and I was watching them and their antics and tried to get some footage, some film footage of them. Unfortunately, I was using my phone through the kitchen window, so it's not the best, I'm afraid, but it's a little bit of footage of those baby blue tits being fed next to the feeders in the plum tree. So I'll see if I can get a few bits of film footage together of all that activity. Guys, I'm gonna have to go. Time for lunch, time for a cuppa. Thanks for popping in. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe, hit that little red button, and we will see you soon. I'm on holiday, so I might be able to put a few more videos on than normal. I usually manage probably 1 a week, sometimes 2, depends what I'm up to. However, I am on holiday, so perhaps as I'm doing more and more out here, whatever I'm doing, I shall record and pass it on to you guys for your perusal, and any comments I would gladly receive. And yeah, if you get the chance, go back and look at some of my old videos, see what we were up to on this plot a year or so ago. Well, thank you all for subscribing, all my subscribers. I've had a few new ones. I really appreciate that, guys. Thanks for your support. Thanks for watching my videos. Whatever you're doing, look after yourselves. You stay safe. Stay distanced. Come back and see us soon in the Life's Good. All the best. Bye-bye now.